let's get started. Thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. No problem.
It's good to have you on. Just let me take you back initially. The early days, early 80s. What's your most memorable moment of the early Armoured Saint days?
Wow. You'd have to define it in a smaller time frame. The early 80s, a lot happened.
Starting off, the early days of Armoured Saint and getting the band going, how did it go? Is it all a blur? Did it all happen too quick?
Well, kind of, but, we were, I think probably one of the biggest first things that happened that was a big deal was we were just starting out and starting to play out, and we played a very small club. In fact, it was a comedy club called the Ice House in Pasadena. They were having a battle of the bands, and the grand prize of this battle of bands was a full-page ad in our local, basically our local music magazine called BAM Magazine, and it was, basically the rag on the streets that everyone looked at to see where shows were happening locally, and it covered all kinds of other things. But it was the biggest local magazine in Los Angeles for music, basically. So we played this show and we won first place, and the show was like just completely crazy. All our friends came to the show, and we were obviously at that point heavily influenced by what was going on in the UK with the British heavy metal, and we were just trying to bring that to Los Angeles, right, trying to recreate all the pictures we saw in Kerrang magazine, things like that, from the marquee and so forth. So all our friends came to the show, and, granted, it probably wasn't more than 30 people or something, but it was like watching an old Saxon video from back in the day, just this hair headbanging everywhere and just denim and leather. And so we made a huge impression on whoever the judges were. I can't remember who they were, but they were supposedly quote unquote industry people. So we won first prize, and we got a full page ad in BAM magazine, and that was our first kind of like, mark that we were here, kind of. And the band literally had been together for a couple of months. Like, it was super new. We had just started to get started out. So it was a cool thing for us to get right on this kind of this radar, if you will, right away. So that was a pretty big moment in the early 80s. I'm going to say that was 1982 for sure.
This is a question I wasn't going to ask till the end, but you just sort of touched on it there. If, word of mouth, flyers, BAM magazines, all that sort of thing, versus now the internet, Facebook, Instagram, which wins? It's a simpler time back then. Which wins?
Well,
it's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's more localized. The old way, it was very much guerrilla. You were on the ground and you were localized. You were getting attention right away in person with people on the ground. And the internet now, it's so removed. You're relying on someone coming to you to see something, some advertising, or to reach you. The internet's a double-edged sword, in my opinion. There's a lot of great things about it. It has some negative sides too. So it's a great thing in the sense that it's like an open library, and there's a bazillion books that you can get information on in this little giant library. Everybody has access to it. So that part of it's great. But the problem is, if you happen to be one of those bits of information, how do you stand out? How do you get out and make someone notice you? That's the harder part. So I don't know. They're both, sometimes I think, like, if I was promoting a show in Los Angeles, I think the old way was better, going out on the streets and handing out flyers and giving out, comp tickets or discount tickets, and doing things the old school way, because you have an interaction with people, But if you're promoting something now, it's a little harder, I think. I mean, you have a wider spread because now it's not just Los Angeles, it's across the globe. But you're also spread yourself thin, so the globe is a very big place. And like I said, how do you stand out across that globe? Harder.
Aren't you glad you aren't starting out now?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I think it's harder now. I think there's way more competition. I don't even think there were as many musicians in 1982 as there are nowadays. Nowadays, because of technology, it's much easier to even pursue wanting to be a musician. I'm not saying succeed at it, but I'm saying become or take up being a musician. It's much easier.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the upcoming Armored Saint album, Punching the Sky. Tell us all about this. How did you go with lockdown? Did you have it recorded earlier? Did you have to get together over the internet? Tell us about the process in here.
Luckily we were done when our city shut down. We had just finished, I think, about a week or two before it closed down. So I was still doing technical stuff, cleaning up tracks and getting the sessions ready to hand off to Jay Rustin so he could mix. So it's still working from home anyway, so it didn't affect us or me at all. So that part was fine. I remember driving the drives over to Jay Rustin, and the city had just shut down a week prior, and so at the beginning it was all super scary, like, oh no, I can't see anybody, can't touch anybody, I can't do anything. And so I called him, I texted him, and I said, all right, here's the deal, I'm gonna put it in a brown paper bag, and I'm gonna leave it on your doorstep so you don't need to see me or breathe on me, or I might need to breathe on you. I wiped it down before I put it in the box, and you wipe it down again, or it was this funny exchange when that first happened. But it didn't affect us at all, really. We just kind of went ahead, business as usual, and mixed the record. Yeah, I mean that's really it. We had already done our studio work together, starting in December. We worked December, January, February, and first week or two of March. First week of March, I think, is I think when we finally finished. So, yeah, we got lucky.
Okay, good. As far as touring goes, you're going to have to do it the modern COVID internet way. You're starting off with a live stream. What's the plan after that? Is there light at the end of the tunnel over there? It's a bit hard to judge that from way over here.
Well, it's the same here as everywhere, I think. There's light at the end of the tunnel in the sense that it seems like there's going to be some breakthroughs medically coming up by the end of the year, so that is a positive note for everybody. We're hoping to, we're hoping to, if that happens, that the confidence level will be up and the distribution of this medical relief be available to everybody soon, quickly. Hopefully by the spring, there might be some venues opening up for shows, and of course everybody and their brother is going to want to go on tour, so it's going to be hard to get in. But we're hoping that things start letting up in the spring and we can get out there again.
Yeah, when the gates do open, it is going to be a bit of a logjam at these venues, isn't it? You're going to have to draw straws to see who gets to play. Yeah,
it's going to be tough competition, because keep in mind too that some venues, lost their businesses. They closed, and so now there's less venues, and like I said, competition is going to be tough, and who knows even that we'll be able to go at full capacity. It might be something that opens up to partial capacity, which means, again, less everything, less people, less bodies in the building. That means less tickets sold. That means less income. That means less staff, less everything across the board. So it's going to be interesting.
Just on a side note, have you got other work? Have you got a finger in another pie? Think of this all the time with all these musicians that are not being able to go out and tour. What's happening?
I've been pretty lucky that I've been busy. I obviously this Armored Saint record has been pretty time consuming for me. I also have, I play with Fates Warning, and our new record comes out literally 3 weeks after the Armored Saint record. So I have 2 records coming out this year. There's no plans for Fates to do any touring either. Everybody's the same boat. We're just waiting to see what's happening. I'm also in the middle. I also play with a band called Motor Sister, and we were actually recording basic tracks when the city got shut down here in LA. So I literally went from Armored Saint tracking, and I went into the studio with Motor Sister for 1 week, and then we were cut off. So we have an unfinished record we have to finish, and there's been loose talk about going back into the studio in late November, maybe even December. If the city opens up, again, all the studios are still closed right now, so there's still a lot of uncertainty with that. But anyway, if that comes up, then I would be going back into the studio at the end of the year with Motor Sister. But until then, just kind of concentrating on doing press and promoting Armored Saint, staying involved with social media to help stay engaged with fans. And we have a couple of videos coming up. We're working on a new video for our new single. And we have a couple of other playthroughs coming up, so that'll be some things to do. So there's some things going on. Keep me busy.
Just think of all the unfinished albums that are out there right now. It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, there must be a lot,
Yeah, Joey, thanks a lot for talking to me. You have a great rest of the day. Good luck with your new album, Punching the Sky, out October 23rd. All the best with it, and hope to see you down here soon.
Thank you for doing this, and hopefully this opens up the world, and we can get back down to Australia to do another tour. So we're looking forward to that.